Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July 10th Topeka City Council meeting. As you might have suspected, our mayor is not here this evening. She is doing some excellent work on behalf of our community in Puerto Rico. And so once again, you are stuck with me. Our goal this evening is to have half as many errors as we did last time. And if we beat it, my wife tells me I get a cookie. So,
Motion to adjourn.
with that, we'll call the meeting. I'm sorry. All right. First order of business, the invocation. Ms. Clear?
Yep. I have invited Pastor Barbara Johnson Dieter to give our invocation tonight. Pastor Dieter grew up in North Platte, Nebraska, and is a graduate of Kearney State Teachers College and the Prairie Bible Seminary in Three Hills, Alberta, Canada. It was in Canada that she met Mark Dieter from Topeka, Kansas. When they were married, Mark brought the Nebraska girl to Topeka. He became pastor at Grace Baptist Church in '68, and Barbara taught school at Quincy Elementary. Sadly, Pastor Dieter died on Valentine's Day of this year, but it was after his death that Barbara decided to become an ordained pastor and continue their ministry. Thank you for your faithful service to Topeka and for joining us tonight to lead us in prayer. Everybody, please stand if you're able.
Father, I'm so thankful that it is possible to come here to this meeting and address you in prayer and ask for your help and blessing for the city of Topeka, our mayor, the city leaders, and council members who are involved helping all areas of our city. Please give them courage, wisdom, and foresight to provide for the needs of our people and fulfill their obligations to the community. Please teach us also to rely on your strength and accept our responsibility as citizens here in our city of Topeka. In your name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no proclamations this evening, and we have two presentations. Mr. City Manager, if you would describe the first one.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Our first presentation tonight is on hands-only CPR. Chief Duke will come forward. It's a new initiative that our fire department's been working on, and so wanted to also bring it forward to the council and let them be aware of it and the general public. So Chief Duke.
Good evening, governing body. Thank you for this opportunity to step up towards you and present one of many programs that we're going to take out to the community with the Center for Public Safety Excellence and pushing towards accreditation. One of the biggest aspects of accreditation is community risk reduction, and hands-only CPR is one of those programs that we are pushing out this time. I do have in front of you instructions on hands-only CPR, also with the little heart that we are using. These are very instrumental in the training that we can actually hit the masses with these sort of things that teach them hands-only CPR. Also, as part of our accreditation program that we're pushing forward, there's these cards in front of you, which we'll hand out to the public when we attend NIA meetings or other community meetings, and that'll give them information about the fire department, the programs that we're pushing out for community risk reduction, and also our survey. So with that, I would like to start this video that was produced by TV4, and they did a great job. We had individuals on the council that appeared in this and did cameos in there doing for the instructions CPR. We also had one done in Spanish, so when we hit the Spanish-speaking community, we'll be able to instruct them as well. So.
My name is Dr. Sarah Sarton. I am an emergency medicine physician at Stormont Vale Health. When a person has a cardiac arrest, survival depends on them immediately receiving CPR from someone nearby.
Hi, I'm Chuck Ritter, training officer with the Topeka Fire Department. Today we're going to be learning about hands-only CPR. call 911. If you can't do so, direct someone else to call for you.
You call 911.
Kneel beside the victim and loosen their clothing if appropriate to do so. Place the heel of your hand directly in the center of the chest. Cover that hand with your other hand and lock in your fingers. Then you're going to press down hard and fast in the center of the chest to at least 100 beats per minute. Lock your elbows in and use your weight to depress the chest at least 2 inches. Continue doing that until medical help arrives.
Your city of Topeka wants all citizens to be safe and healthy.
Hands-only CPR, especially if performed immediately,
Can double or even triple a cardiac arrest victim's chance of survival.
When a person has a cardiac arrest,
Survival depends on immediately receiving CPR from someone nearby.
if you're called on to give CPR in an emergency,
You will most likely be trying to save the life of someone you love.
a spouse,
A parent,
or a close friend,
Learn how to perform hands-only CPR.
give someone the chance to survive cardiac arrest.
safe and healthy citizens,
Make a safe and healthy city.
remember the 2 steps.
Call 911.
push hard and fast in the center of the chest,
To the beat of a familiar song,
That has 100 beats per minute.
The 2 most important steps to hands-only CPR is call 911 immediately, push hard and fast in the center of the chest, and do this until help arrives.
like I said, this is one of the many programs that we're going to try to push out to the community, and with the assistance, like I say, of the TV4, and also some of our council members helped us get this production on the road. And I look forward to bringing the next program that the fire department's going to be pushing out sooner than later. Any questions? You may keep the hearts.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief, you know, you were at the NIA and you presented this, and I asked you then if you knew that Staying Alive's move. Did you ever learn that?
Yes, ma'am. The 100 beats per minute, the songs that they use, are the most favorite one is Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. And there's a couple of other songs in there that I'm not too familiar with. There's only one other one I know not to use, and it's Another One Bites the Dust. Thank you.
I don't know how you follow that, folks. Oh, my. Oh, dear. All right. Thank you. This is important information for our community, and indeed, it can help save a life. So thank you so much for that. Mr. City Manager, the second presentation?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Our second presentation is on municipal courts, alternative sentencing court. Judge Bishel is here tonight to give us information about alternative sentencing court. Judge?
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to get my presentation up here real quick. They told me I have 5 minutes, so I promise I will keep it to that. There are a lot of you that have the institutional history of why we started this alternative sentencing court. I know there's been a few questions on how we're doing, and so my goal tonight is to just give you an update, tell you where we are, how far we've come, and what it's looking like for the future. I had the opportunity in March to attend the Municipal Judges Conference, which was attended by pretty much every municipal court judge in Kansas, and we were one of the 4 cities to have an alternative sentencing court in Kansas. So we are kind of ahead of the game. We've been doing this since about 2015. So the alternative sentencing court is a specialized docket designed to address the unique needs of defendants with mental health needs that are charged with misdemeanor and traffic offenses. So they do have to generally have a misdemeanor offense. But it is a collaborative effort between Vallejo, the Veterans Administration, TPD, our probation office, defense attorneys, and our city prosecutors. Every week we have a weekly staffing to go through each one of these cases, and one of our key elements is having people in the community that go out to see our defendants every week Officer Kimball is assigned to the alternative sentencing court and does a fabulous job. We had somebody that we had a concern about today. I sent an email out, and they were able to go out and check on that person within 2 hours. So the teamwork between everybody is just amazing, and that comes from being in the alternative sentencing court for the last 3 years. So why is there a need for a specialized court? There's lots of studies. The most recent one is really from 2009. Nationally, we house about 2 million people a year with mental illness, about 72% of who have a substance abuse disorder as well. When the mental health hospitals closed, these people had nowhere to go, and so most of them ended up in the criminal justice system. And so what we're doing is trying to address what is causing them to become involved with the criminal justice system and see if there's a way we can keep them out of it with this mental health treatment and occasionally substance abuse treatment if it's warranted. What about Shawnee County? Shawnee County, approximately 22% of our daily population at the Shawnee County Jail is considered SPMI, so severely, persistently mentally ill. And about 3/4 of those also have a coexisting diagnosis of substance abuse. It costs us $300 per day to take care of an SPMI inmate. So that's 3 times what it costs to take care of an inmate without a mental illness. According to Brian Cole, who's our director of the Shawnee County Jail, about 65% of those with SPMI are male and 35% are female. And so they have a daily population of 530 adults, so 1/5 of those 530, so over 100 people a day with SPMI. So it's really important for us to continue this program. Like I said, it has a weekly staffing meeting. We meet to go over their cases, how they've done this week. Most of the defendants that are in the alternative sentencing court are receiving treatment through Vallejo. So we get an update from our outreach coordinator. And if they are receiving treatment through the VA, then we'll get the update from the VA coordinator as well. Chrissy Russell is who we work with Vallejo. She's an LMSW, and then Audrey Manning is our new Justice Outreach Coordinator with the VA. Our last one moved to Florida. Kind of wish I was sitting on the beach with her right now. But they do assist in the pre-release planning. They collaborate with the jail mental health staff if we have a defendant that is sanctioned because they violated the terms of the alternative sentencing court, if that's a matter of getting the medication. If it's going to see them because I listened to it on the jail docket and thought this might be somebody that qualifies for our program, they'll actually go do the assessment while they're still in jail, so we don't lose that contact with them. This is incredibly important because a lot of times they'll come in that next day and just want to plead to their case. If we can get a hold of them before they leave jail, then we've already made the contact and they already know about the program, so when I approach them about it from the bench, it's not a surprise. So our liaisons also communicate, like I said, any treatment information from the last week. And we usually don't have holidays on Wednesdays, which is one reason we have our docket on Wednesdays, but obviously with 4th of July we did. So instead of the defendants meeting with all of us on Wednesday last week, they met with the liaisons instead, just so there's still that contact. And so they could let us know if there were any concerns between last week and this week. So some benefits of the alternative sentencing court. They're increasing mental health treatment utilization, reducing recidivism. I'll get to our specific graduates here in just a few minutes. And the individuals are just better served in the community rather than in jail, although we do have a great mental health program at jail. Obviously, if you can be treated out in the community, that is the goal. One of the ways we can do that is if they decide to participate in alternative sentencing court, I can order them to get the treatment. So it's not always warranted, but sometimes it is. It does tend to reduce their recidivism. So the participation in the alternative sentencing court is voluntary. they can come in through probation or diversion. If they're eligible for diversion, this can be a term of diversion. And if they're not eligible for diversion, then they can go ahead and come in through a probation plan. So they would be sentenced. They generally have a 30 to 90 day underlying sentence, and then they'll be placed on probation for at least 1 year, because this is a 1-year program. It can be extended, whether they go out on warrant for a few weeks, a few months, if they are sanctioned for an extended period of time. We have some people that we give them 2 or 3 sanctions. You know, part of my job, I don't get to be the touchy-feely side of it. I do have to keep them accountable. And so if they do violate the terms of the alternative sentencing court, then they can be sanctioned. If we have somebody that is sanctioned a couple different times, then they may get their diversion or probation revoked. They would be ordered to serve their underlying sentence. I generally will review that within about 2 weeks to 30 days, bring them back to the alternative sentencing court, and we'll decide if this is really a program that's for them, if this is something they can do. That is one reason you see on our report that we have defendants in the alternative sentencing court that have been in here since 2016. The reason for that is they have served an extended sanction, or they have disappeared for about 6 months, and when they came back, they indicated that they were interested in continuing on with alternative sentencing court, so we restarted that year. And so one of the things that we're able to do is to check in at that point. Where are they in their treatment? Do they need additional treatment? Our 1-year program does require the regular court appearances, regular drug testing, the payment of their court fees, and payment for treatment. It's on a sliding scale basis, so if they can't afford the treatment, then Vallejo and the VA absolutely work with them. The drug testing, I drug test pretty much everybody that comes into the alternative sentencing court. As the stats earlier show, 75% of the people are going to have a substance abuse issue. And so part of progressing through the 3 phases is making sure that they are substance abuse free for 30 days. So our referrals for the program, they do come from various sources. Defense attorney, judge, mental health, TPD officers will send me an email, say, hey, we've got somebody that's been out for a while. I think I can bring them in. Can you pull their warrant? Can we set them up for this? And so we'll get that assessment through either Vallejo or the VA at the same time. So these are our 3 phases. The biggest difference is when they come in to see me. During phase 1, they are coming in every single week. Phase 2, they come in twice a week, although they can come back more regularly if they need to. We do have some people that have chosen not to come in every 2 weeks and want to come in every week because they feel like they need that support. We do try and taper them off of that, especially as they get towards phase 3 where they're coming in once a month, because we want them to be able to take care of themselves after they complete the program. So sometimes you do have to shove people off the branch a little bit soon, but if they ever do need to come back, they are absolutely welcome to come back, and we do have them do that. So our alternative sentencing court was first held on January 7th of 2015 with two participants. Right now we have 17. So we've gone up quite a bit, and we have already graduated 6 people this year. We anticipate an additional 4 before the end of the year. We are on track. We've already surpassed all of 2015 for our referrals. We're on track to surpass 2016 and 17. We still have 5 months to reach those goals. It does look like the enrollments are down, but you have to understand some of those referrals are the same person over and over, and we try and reach out to them every single time. But we do have 6, so we've surpassed the number that graduated last year, and we have 4 more that are set to graduate if everything goes well for them. So we have had a total of 22 graduates since this program started. So funding for the alternative sentencing court, there is the alternative sentencing court coordinator salary, who is a contractor with the city. We have the Vallejo Community Outreach Coordinator and alternative sentencing court supplies. Vallejo does also pay for the community outreach coordinator salary as well. They lost one of their grants, so we have started supporting part of that salary, but they provide us reports every quarter as to how many they have assessed, how many are getting treatment, and how many meetings they've attended. And then our Veterans Administration Justice Outreach Coordinator is paid completely through the VA. I'm going to wrap it up. I promised I would keep it under 5 minutes, and I know I'm beyond that at this point. But I did want to talk to you about just 2 success stories before we leave. We had one person that came in. They had 9 cases from October of 2017 to April of 2018. They were literally picking up a case every 2 to 3 weeks. So they were extremely high utilizer of 911 services. They came into crisis housing at Vallejo, which is one of the services that they can get through the alternative sentencing court, on April 12th. And while he was in crisis, he stated, "You know, my charges are only a symptom of the bigger problem that's really going on with me. When I was in that jail, I was waiting to kill myself, but they wouldn't give me a chance to do it alone. And then I came to court, and you guys smiled at me, and you said you wanted to give me another chance, maybe a different path, and it gave me some hope." He's had no new cases since he went into crisis housing. He's been sober since April of 2018. He's made every one of his court dates and every one of his treatment dates. And then the final statistic that I have for you is our graduate statistics. Of the 22 graduates, 16 have not reoffended. Of the 6 that have, the majority of those citations were for traffic. 2 are considered major violations, and of those, 1 has re-enrolled in alternative sentencing court and is set to graduate this year. 8 of our AAC graduates continue to use the mental health services that they started to receive while in alternative sentencing court. So, are there any questions?
That's excellent news. I have one quick one. So in instances where they are severely mentally challenged, how do you work out making this voluntary?
It is a voluntary program. We have Vallejo or the VA go down to do the assessment. They make their recommendations. We bring them into one of the meetings to observe and then talk to them about whether or not they're interested in it. They then will meet with a defense attorney first to give them legal advice about whether or not this is a program for them. I'll admit there are some people that I tend to strong arm into the program because I think we can help them. Sure. But it is absolutely voluntary. I can't make anybody do it.
So when they are mentally challenged, though, how are they able to make that decision?
A lot of times their guardians will come in with them. We have advocates that come in from the different group homes. So there's a variety of support.
Wonderful. Well, and that helps them be successful in the program, too, I would expect as well.
It absolutely does. It helps keep them accountable because the guardians are going to come report to me how they did that week as well.
Excellent. Wonderful. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I think this is a fantastic program. I do have a question. Explain to me a little bit how the 30-day sober portion works. If there's a person in need because they want to get into the program and you know, lots of times we see that. Do they go to detox? And kind of line me out on how that works.
It really depends on how severe it is. Most of the people that are going to come in, I give them just a baseline UA. I ask them if they've used, is there anything that's going to show positive? And so if they say, yes, I've used marijuana 2 weeks ago, we know that that's going to stay in your system approximately 30 days. So then in 2 weeks, when they should be clean, we'll give them another UA. If they are somebody that needs more intensive treatment, then Vallejo or the VA will recommend them for inpatient treatment. And so they may go to inpatient treatment. Like the guy I was talking about earlier, he went into inpatient treatment for 30 days. It was the longest he's ever been. And when he came out, he's been sober since then.
So they don't have to come to you at 30 days?
No,
okay.
they absolutely do not.
Perfect.
We have lots of people that aren't there yet.
Yeah, that was where I was confused, so thank you.
Sure.
Other questions or comments? Wonderful. Thank you so much for that report.
Thank you.
On to the roll call.
Deputy Mayor Jensen.
Present.
Council members Keller. Here. Claire. Here. Ortiz. Here. Emerson.
Here.
Padilla.
Here.
Mays.
Here.
Cohen.
Here.
And Lesser.
Here. The gentleman from District 6 notified me that he was filling in for the mayor and would not be able to attend the meeting this evening. That's a joke, people. You're killing me. Appointments, if the clerk would read.
A is the board appointment recommending the appointment of Jamie Green to the Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board for a term ending July 11, 2021. B is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Daryl Kaufman to the Board of Mechanical Examiners for a term ending July 2, 2020. C is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Anthony Fidel to the City of Topeka ADA Advisory Council for a term ending July 14, 2020. D is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Ken Scott to the Downtown Business Improvement District Advisory Board for a term ending July 2, 2020. And E is board appointment recommending the reappointment of Stephen Smith to the Downtown Business Improvement District Advisory Board for a term ending July 2, 2020.
And I just have a quick question. Since I'm representing the mayor here, do I vote on these? Okay, excellent. Is there a motion to accept? Second? Excellent. All those in favor?
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes. If you are in the audience, please stand. Jamie, Daryl, Anthony, Ken, and Stephen. I'll point out that Anthony is in the back. Thank you very much for your service. It was incredibly helpful. The consent agenda, if the clerk would read.
A are minutes of the special meeting of June 20, 2018 and the regular meeting of July 3, 2018, and there are no applications.
Is there a motion? Motion from Mr. Cohen, seconded by Ms. Clear. All those in favor? Or opposed?
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, the consent agenda is approved. On to action items. The clerk would read the first action item.
A is the approval of an amendment to the current labor agreement between the City of Topeka and Local 1294 Missouri-Kansas State Council 61, American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees.
Mr. City Manager.
AFL-CIO.
Sorry.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Human Resources Director, Jackie Russell, she'll come forward and explain what the changes were, or approval of this contract.
Good evening, everyone. This is a wage opener for the calendar year 2019 for the AFSCME Development Services Bargaining Unit. And this wage opener, we were able to remove longevity from the contract and move to a traditional grade and step pay plan, which is similar to most of our other union contracts, and also address market comparability. It has a 3.8% increase in budget expense over the current year. We have a 12.2 overall expense because a new position is proposed to be added in the 2019 budget that is factored into that expense increase as well.
Questions for Jack? Yes, ma'am.
Just to clarify that of the 3 point, whatever it is, 8, some of that, as you mentioned earlier, is due to adjustments in the classification and the wage scale rather than just annual increases, correct?
That is correct. We did a market comparability study for this unit and increased the starting pay by about 10%, and then also made adjustments within the matrix as they flow through to be comparable with other positions within our region.
Just wanted to make sure it was clear that that was more than annual. Thank you.
Wonderful. Other questions? Is there a motion? Motion by Ms. Hiller, second by Ms. Clear. All those in favor?
We have 9 yes.
Excellent. All those, 9 having voted yes, the motion is approved. On to item B.
B is is establishing a public hearing date of August 7, 2018 for the purpose of hearing and answering objections of taxpayers relating to the proposed City of Topeka 2019 operating budget, setting the maximum expenditure limits, and authorizing the publication of the public hearing notice in the Topeka Metro newspaper.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Included in your packet was a memorandum from Nick Hawkins, our Budget and Performance Manager. It outlines the changes that occurred from when we completed the meeting based on the amendments that were done at the last meeting, and it explains where we found the money to cover those adjustments. There are reasonable changes to the issue, adjusting our facilities fund to cover the additional money to TPAC, and looking at the City Council operating budget, there were additional costs that we had to our technology expenses for that, and we're able to make those adjustments to the point where we could cover those without any major issues for this year. Different year next year, but for right now, this will work.
Excellent. Questions for Mr. Hawkins or the City Manager? Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Oh, Ms. Hiller?
Just clarification for the public, what we are doing is setting the cap on how much the budget can be in the public hearing. We actually will, not that we will, but there is an opportunity still for input on that budget for citizen review and input at that public hearing, and then at the final vote on the 14th of August.
That's my
I just
understanding.
want to make sure the public knew this was a step along the way,
Correct, yeah.
not the final.
Yeah, we're not
approval.
approving the budget. We're setting the maximum expenditure authority and then allowing them to give public comment on what the framework would be.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, on to the vote. All those in favor, those opposed?
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, the ordinance, or the public hearing date is set. On to announcements.
The July 17th agenda consists of 2 proclamations, National Night Out and Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. We have 2 presentations for the APWA Kansas Project of the Year Award and reaccreditation. We have 2 board appointments. On the consent agenda, we have a special event, a noise exception. Action items will include the 2 ordinances for the AFSCME amendments. One is notice and process, the other relates to unsafe structures. And then we have the resolution for the city retailer sales tax extension.
I would like to make a quick comment on how well I thought folks did with fireworks this year, following the rules. There was not a whole lot when there wasn't supposed to be. I thought it was substantially better this year than it has been in the past. So I think what we have is working. With that, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I had to add is a continuation of last week's comments regarding vendors. We went out, staff went out and looked and talked to vendors on Friday night, found mostly compliance, passed out more flyers. They're doing the same thing as it relates to the Fiesta and addressing those vendors that are not licensed appropriately and working with them on that. That's all I have.
Excellent. Ms. Clear.
Yes. Okay. I went to the Heartland Sertoma meeting today for 2 reasons. My daughter Casey was given the Service to Mankind Club Award today for all she does for our community and mankind. And they talked about the duck race, Great Topeka Duck Race, that's coming up September 15th. And if you haven't ever gone, it's kind of fun. It's fun to watch the ducks slowly
I hear
get
it's
to the finish line. Yes, it is. But I want to challenge you. I'm going to make a team for City Council.
No.
And so I'm going to challenge it. It's $5, or you can buy like $100 for 27 of them, and you could win this car. Somebody's going to win this car. And I'll pass these around, and you can either send these in, or you can go online under the team. But since we're not a nonprofit, we're not going to get half the money. So we're just giving all of it to the kiddos. And make sure you go to the Fiesta. Take a fan or something with you. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ortiz.
Thank you. I'd just like a report on that giraffe out there.
Oh, man, I forgot that.
Brendan, can you come forward? You've been a nervous daddy for a while. What's going on?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you've been lying to us. I don't think she's pregnant. Are you sure?
Well, I think if nothing else, we have proved conclusively that I am not an expert when it comes to pregnant giraffe. She's still pregnant, we still see movement, but man, the last couple of days she's just looked great. Not as uncomfortable as previously, so we're still watching, waiting, hoping.
Thank you.
Brendan, do you also have an announcement about the movie at the zoo?
Yes, and Councilmember Ortiz, you might have to help me on this. The second annual free movie night at the zoo will be this summer, July 26th, and the movie is
A Bug's Life.
A Bug's Life, that's right. So once I get this draft thing out of my head, we'll be more coherent about announcements like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I too want to reiterate, if you look in the Visitors Topeka book, the Fiesta is one of the events, the annual events that's in there that we are very proud of, the Hispanic community. So I hope you will get a chance to go down and have a drink. And I know Padilla is going to be a very nice social guest there. The Padillas are usually, but I know a lot of people at work ask me about it, never been, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully you can go down and get some good food, good fun, and good friends like Mr. Padilla.
Mr. Emerson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm beginning to see a pattern with our zoo director. The film will be sometime this summer.
That's right.
The giraffe will have her baby sometime this summer. So.
I thought that was the name of the movie.
As you guys know, our utilities department has been dealing with an extraordinary amount of broken water mains recently due to the extreme dry weather and heat. And one of my constituents has had 2 in her yard in the last week. But what I just wanted to read real quick what she wrote. It said, "While this has been a bit of a nightmare for me, I do want to mention that every single city worker I've encountered on this ordeal has been absolutely fantastic. Everyone has been so professional and courteous. None of the gentlemen have seemed bothered at all by my constant watchful eye and countless questions. I wasn't able to catch everyone's name," and then she named a few of the guys. "All the guys on the numerous crews that have responded to these water breaks should get recognition for the way they've handled this whole situation, as I imagine it is possibly quite frustrating for them as well. So just want to take my hat off to those gentlemen, and well done."
That's excellent. Yeah, that is kind of a tough job, and we call on them at all hours of the night in the cold depths of winter and the height of summer, so they absolutely should be commended for their work there. Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to follow up on something similar to that. My mother lives over in Oakland, has for decades, and she's been working with the city and taking part of that 50-50 program for the sidewalks. And they got part of it done, and day before yesterday, Monday, they showed up again with the engineers taking measurements and everything. She was pleased, except for the fact that they were going to plan to do that this week. And she lives right on the corner of Greeley and North Chandler. And that would have been a little inconvenient to all the Fiesta goers. They considered that and said, no problem, we'll come back later on when it's more convenient. They did an excellent job, so they've been really easy to work with, and she's complimented me to tell them that they've done a good job. I was there last night for the media event, well attended. Mr. City Manager and his wife Kelly were there. Karen was also there. It was a good turnout, and it occurred to me when I was talking to a gentleman who is new to Topeka with Burlington Northern. He came to Topeka, and he's moving his family here. He said, people told me about this Fiesta, but I've never really been able to come. He said, what strikes me is the diversity of the people who attend. He said, and I followed up by telling him that in Topeka, that's probably one of the most diverse events that they have. You can see just a little bit of everybody at the fiesta, and they're not just from Topeka, they're from out of town, out of state. And I encourage you that if you have a little bit of time to go down there, we're very proud of that event. We're very proud of the work that the people do there. Stop in and take a look at the church and how they decorate it during this time. They have a good art show that goes on there with a muralist that I introduced to Mr. City Manager, and he's got some amazing murals that he does there. And if you get a chance, and if you're there and around closing, I think, again, I brag about this because I think that's something the police department does an extremely good job of, and I think could be a model for other cities, how they work so well with the attendees there. In fact, Officer Jamie, who was here earlier, got appointed to the board. He was headed back down there to work. And the officers blend right in. They don't stick out as the protectors. They stick out as part of the community down there. And I think they do an excellent job. And I would encourage you to get, if you get a chance, to go down and spend a little time down there. Thank you.
Excellent. Mr. Mays. Mr. Cohen? Mic number 9. Yeah. District 9, District 5.
There's nothing left to say after all of that.
That's true. Yeah, other than I kind of want to go now. Public comment.
Do I get a
Oh,
turn?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Number
Loop
1.
around. Just got a couple. First, in our handout packets tonight at the council, we had letters advising us that Shiloh Baptist Church has been, as of June 29th, is now on the National Register of Historic Places. And so that's really exciting, and hats off to the folks at Shiloh who took that time and got the church. And that's in the middle of the Tennessee Town neighborhood, which I represent, but means a lot to a lot of people over time. So hats off to them. I also, in the city manager's packet this week, we all got a copy of a really, I thought, well done white paper, or I would call it a white paper, from our lobbyist Whitney Dameron, talking about kind of the history of the abandoned housing legislation that we've been working on with the state, and really laid out some fresh ways to look at that for us to move forward. So I thought he did a really great job, and encourage everybody, if you haven't already, to pull that out from the weekly report and have a look at that. And last but not least, in terms of the Fiesta recognition last night, something that strikes me every year in terms of the diversity and the richness of what is there is that they go through all of the private sponsors of the Fiesta and take time to invite them up and recognize them. And it goes on for maybe half an hour, which I think everyone fully enjoys, and it is just so incredible to see that strong community support, and really gratifying to me. And that, for me, is compounded because tomorrow morning I will be one of the folks speaking at the dedication of a new bus pad and bus shelter at 6th and Polk. And it is one of 3 that are being financed from a private donation to fund bus shelters for people here in Topeka. And I just think as those things, they keep happening, and it's really great, and a great credit to this community in terms of support, privately and publicly. That's it. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Just about blew my cookie. Okay, down to public comment. Mr. Sam Riley.
I just have one simple question. What do I have to do to get ordinances changed?
What specific ordinance are you interested in changing?
The general noise ordinance and the combustion engine ordinance.
Mr. City Manager, is that something that you guys would need to discuss at a different time?
We've been discussing it.
Okay. Well, what's your concern with the existing ordinance?
Okay, I have a dirt track race car that never sees the street. If it sees the street, it's on a trailer.
Okay.
People in this town have been working on dirt track cars for 30 years or better without getting ticketed or anything. Just because I have a neighbor across the street that's the only neighbor in the neighborhood that doesn't like it, I got a citation for it. and it was just idling.
Is it muffled?
There's motorcycles that are louder than that car at night.
Mm-hmm. Is it muffled, or is it's just straight pipes coming out
It's
the engine?
straight pipes with
So it is
turndowns.
extremely loud then?
It's no louder than a motorcycle at idle. When you rev it up, then it becomes louder. But in that idle, it's no louder than a motorcycle that you buy from Harley Davidson. My thing is, there's no decimal level in either rule. So how do you know when you're too loud?
You have to be able to hear it over a certain distance, if memory serves. And Ms. Robertson, you could comment more on that than I could.
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I just know that there have been multiple conversations, I
Okay.
believe, with Mr. Riley in the past about this subject, so.
Who is
no.
your city council representative? Okay, excellent. That would be the first place I would start then.
I did.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mr. Riley, obviously, we've had a lot of conversations on this, and I do appreciate the work you've done to try to mitigate it.
Yeah.
The problem we all face is the number one, and hopefully I've shared this with you, but the number one complaint I probably get, if it's not about like grass being too tall or something, it's noise. And I think that's why we're very reluctant to relax that, because that's the number one complaint I get right now from people.
Okay, and here's my other thing. I called try and find somewhere else to work on it here in town other than my house. I even called out to Heartland Park to see if they had garage space out there. There is nowhere else in the city of Topeka to work on it.
There are no garages in the county?
Not that I'm aware of. None that Heartland Park told me. So if there's not space where I can work on it elsewhere, I'm pretty much stuck working on it at my house. I mean, I've done everything I can to try and mitigate the noise. I lived in the neighborhood first. The guy moved in. The guy knew I had a race car when he moved in because there was one sitting there. I don't understand what the issue is with it. And whenever I'm getting ready to fire it up or whenever I'm getting ready to work on it, I go every year and tell him, hey, look, I'm getting ready to start working on the race car. It's race car season. According to IMCA rules, I don't have to have a muffler. And like I said, there's drag cars around here. There's other guys that run dirt cars. So if I'm the only one that's getting in trouble for it, how's that fair?
Well, if nobody else is complaining, then we wouldn't know about it.
Okay.
It's the only difference. So, yes, ma'am.
I have a question for legal. Lisa, is there, in our noise ordinance, is there a certain time after, like, a certain time afterwards that the noise, like somebody said like 11 o'clock, you can't blah, 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 blah.
Not that I recall off the top of my head. I wasn't prepared to talk about this evening. But I
If
do
you
know
could look at that.
I can.
Because I've always, I have a lot of cousins and they have race cars and they're very respectable to their neighbors after a certain time. Now, I don't know if that's just common courtesy or if it's a rule, but they are, and I'd like to know if that's
I can look at that. It may be just that the decibel level is so high that it doesn't matter what time, but I will definitely check into it. And I know that the city manager's had several conversations.
How
with
long
Mr.
is
Riley.
the season that you compete in?
It lasts from April to September.
Okay, so you can't we couldn't do a special permit for that. That's too long a time frame.
Right, and that's the reason why I said people have been racing. They even raced at Heartland Park. They raced out at Highway 40 out at the old Topeka Raceway. People have been racing around here for years with dirt cars.
Well, and we've just recently, in the last several years, changed the noise ordinance because there was this significant push by the public to make the city quieter.
Right, and it's like I put in the comment to Mr. Trout. I put in to make the recommendation to where we could work on them in between the hours of 8 in the morning and 10 at night, because most people go to bed at 10 o'clock, and most people aren't up before 8 in the morning. When I worked night shift, I was working until midnight at BNSF. I got off work at midnight, and then I started working on it at 11 o'clock in the morning. Neighbor called the cops. Right now, every time I go out there and work on it or fire it up to do anything with it, the neighbor across the street that was complaining about it gets out her little iPad and starts videotaping me.
Have you measured how loud the decibels are?
Nobody's got a decimal. I don't have the decimal reading. As far as I know, the cops don't have the capability of finding out what decimal reading it is either.
Those are very inexpensive on Amazon. I'm wondering how loud this actually is, because, you know, what my perception of loud and your perception of loud
Well,
would be,
if you
would be
go
different.
on to KSNT News and look at the race car story, I fired it up for that segment, and you can hear it run at idle.
Well, but the speakers on my computer or TV wouldn't be the same as in real life. That's why I'm wondering if the sounded level has actually been measured to tell how far and how.
Nobody's ever come to my house to measure it.
Okay. So we don't really know how truly loud this is then?
Right. Not at idle.
Okay. All right. Yes, Ms. Hunt.
I would suggest too, when we look at that, I think his point about the decibels is a good one. We're talking about that a little bit. One of the things we've been working on the best that we can in recent years is to be setting policy that is general and applicable rather than governing by complaint. And so I think his point is, well, worth exploring a bit in terms of how the decibel level, and, you know, the noise ordinance that we changed had to do with cars on the street. And that was, it's a 50-foot, and that was so you could tell which car it was, more or less. And so it'd be worth checking some of those normal ones just in terms of decibels, as well as the Harley, if that's a good example, and a race car, because I'm not sure we've got any noise restrictions, much of anything during the day. We certainly, particularly fresh off fireworks season, know that there are some people who just hate noise and others who don't care. But for us to make policy, I think it'd be worth looking at whether we can do some measuring as we review.
Well, and going back to my days in the car audio industry, different frequencies at different
Understood.
levels reverberate differently across given terrain. So, you know, to create a specific ordinance for a certain type of noise gets rather dicey when you get into the science. So,
Right.
I appreciate your comments. It's something that it sounds like we need to take a look at a little bit more. But at the end of the day, generally, folks want to live in a quiet city, and I know that that's not conducive to. I don't know if this is your business or a hobby.
It's a hobby. I've helped the guy that owned the car before that since I was 13 years old. He never had cops called. I'm the second owner of 2 cars. Like I said, I don't fire it up after 10 o'clock at night, and it's normally either midday or 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Sure.
Because I was letting it sit there and idle and warm up so I can run through and do the bolts. The last time when they called it, and I got the citation, and that was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, in between 4 and 5 o'clock. And I got the citation for it, which I have to come to court on the 24th.
I understand. Well, thank you for your comments. We'll take a look at it.
All right.
Okay. There's a need for one executive session if the city attorney would give the parameters.
The motion is to recess into executive session for a period of time not to exceed 20 minutes for consultation with the city's legal counsel to discuss attorney-client privilege matters related to potential litigation as justified by KSA 75-4319B2. In order to aid the discussion, the following individuals should be present: members of the governing body, City Manager Brent Trout, Financial Administrative Services Director Nikki Lee, Associate City Attorney Nick Jefferson, and myself.
Is there a motion? Motion, second. All those in favor, vote yes or no.
Oops.
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, the motion is approved. We will begin the executive session when the room is clear.